Why investigate me in the first place if I've not done anything, you see? The investigation was taking place purely on the fact that my name is Mohammed, I look the way I do and I'm Muslim.
It stigmatises, I think criminalises communities.
Our teachers and our lecturers can effectively spy on us.
And we are mobilising a movement against this incredibly problematic project.
My name is Rahmaan. I'm a 17-year-old Muslim and student from Luton. I was unfairly targeted by the UK government's prevent strategy, so I decided to start my own investigation. I was trying to organise a Palestine charity appeal just to try and raise humanitarian aid and money. I was speaking to my teacher, to my principal about it. He grinned at me and said, "Is the money not going to ISIS? Are you sure the money's not going to ISIS?" The first thing that I actually did was wear some wristbands and badges. I was questioned on my views, I was questioned on what I believe in. My education was kind of being ruined. My mum called me. We've had a visit from the police. Get down here as soon as possible. I opened the door and the first thing I saw was these two big men, hench, very tall, very intimidating. What was even more intimidating was this folder that they had in their hand, and it had my name on it and my date of birth on it. And it was the first feeling that I'm being monitored. I wanted to meet someone who had an experience similar to my own. So I headed up to Stoke-on-Trent to meet student Mohammed Farouk.
I was studying terrorism. I was reading a book of literature that was given to me by the university as a core text. I was asked questions sort of, what do you think about Sharia law? Should we have it in the UK? Do you want it in the UK? I was told by the university academic registrar that it's okay. We would have just investigated you and that would have been the end of it. But my issue is, why investigate me in the first place if I've not done anything, you see? So the investigation was taking place purely on the fact that my name is Mohammed, I look the way I do and I'm Muslim, and that's the only thing that I can put it down to.
Do you think someone's interaction with prevent can lead them towards radicalisation?
What we need to understand is certain conditions need to exist for somebody to be able to develop that mindset. I'm of Indian, Pakistani heritage and you're of Afghani heritage. We don't know, what do we know of that? That's just an imaginary homeland that we that we know that our grandparents, great-grandparents once came from. When you go there, I've been there twice in my life, I feel very out of place, and I'm sure you do.
Exactly.
So where do we fit into this world where we don't fit in there? And where we do fit in, and we're born and raised, they don't want us to fit in, so where do we fit? That alienation is something that could cause somebody to do something, or to join something, or to leave, or, it could basically change somebody's mindset completely.
Meeting Mohammed confirmed my feeling that my friends and I weren't alone in being treated like suspects. Attacks like 7/7 and the recent atrocities in Paris and Brussels show that these terrorists could be locals, targeting the very cities in which they were born. Introduced by the last Labour government in 2007, Prevent is one strand of the UK's counter-terrorism strategy. The government says it's key for our national security to monitor the population for potential radicalisation. The Counter-Terrorism and Security Act 2015 introduced the Prevent duty on a statutory basis, meaning institutions such as schools and universities have a legal requirement to monitor and report suspected radicalisation. On a regular basis, stories hit the press that show referrals being made for absurd reasons, like a change in appearance or the reading of academic texts.
I think the prevent strategy is state Islamophobia, nothing short of that. It basically targets the entire Muslim community. It doesn't just go after terrorists or those who have the potential to become bombers. It goes after the whole community by targeting ideology and some social conservative attitudes and political activism that Muslims get into.
Prevent is Islamophobic, it's racist. This does not benefit anyone, all it does is cause us more issues.
I've come to Westminster to meet Yasmin Qureshi, the Labour MP for Bolton South East. Yasmin has for a number of years been critical of Prevent, and I want to hear whether she thinks the government is listening. What is Prevent?
Prevent was an idea that came up when the last Labour government was in power, because they felt that they had to deal with the issue of radicalisation of young people, especially young Muslim males. The idea was that, if you notice or hear unusual views or radical views, then you can put them in this Prevent channel and then talk to them about their views and ideas and discuss them. It soon became clear that Prevent was being used as a means of spying on people, and as a result of it, a lot of people stopped cooperating with it. In my opinion, Prevent is wrong, and the idea was wrong initially. I think it stigmatises, I think criminalises communities, and more specifically actually doesn't allow for debate to take place.
What do you think the impacts of Prevent are on the Muslim community?
Well, the Muslim community already feels that they're under a cosh and that they're viewed with the prism of terrorists, and that they're not fitting in with Western society, and Prevent plays into that.
From my experience, I feel that the Prevent strategy can push people towards radicalisation instead of pushing them away from it. What is your opinion on this?
I think if you're a young person and carted off and you know nothing about anything, but then you're harassed and you're put to these courses and then you're talked to and counter-terrorism, yeah, you may end up actually being resentful of what's been carried out against you. It doesn't necessarily follow, but I think there's a potential there. I mean, at the end of the day, we are talking about young minds.
Yasmin was one of the first Muslim MPs in Britain, and I really hope her voice is heard. Like Mohammed, she seemed concerned that young Muslims like me interacting with Prevent could actually be driven towards violent extremism. I wanted to ask the government if they thought Prevent was working, but no one was willing to talk. It's as if they don't want to be confronted with the reality. The Home Office has dedicated Prevent coordinators in local areas where communities are seen as particularly at risk of radicalisation. I've come to Leicester to meet Will Baudet, the Prevent coordinator for this area. I want to find out how Prevent is being implemented day to day, and whether he is experiencing any resistance.
Yeah, there are some individuals who are resistant to the strategy. There are some for whom it will always be seen, well, I think anything that the UK government comes out with would be seen through a negative prism. I've not seen a case where someone has been unfairly targeted. If someone was to ring me and say, I've got a kid here who, for example, is very vocal about Palestine, that would be a very short conversation.
If this was what was happening, then it would be great. But if you look at examples like Mohammed Farouk, what you're saying is simply not what's happening on the ground.
I think if inappropriate examples or referrals are being made, then I would want the training to be improved. What I don't think is appropriate is that you abandon a strategy because somebody in the strategy has made a mistake. I think what you do is you hone the strategy and you refine the strategy. The Prevent duty has done exactly that. It is bringing everybody up to that same kind of bar, if you like.
According to Will, Prevent is working well here in Leicester, and that's all well and good. But from my experiences and stories that I've heard, something just doesn't add up.
Many young Muslims feel if they raise concerns about domestic issues or foreign issues, they're likely to be labelled with the brush of extremism.
Our teachers and our lecturers can effectively spy on us by reporting back to the government essentially what's being said in our tutorials.
Back in London, I arranged to meet Malia Bhatia, President of the National Union of Students, to see how young Muslims are responding to Prevent. Do you think what happened to me is reflective of what's going on around the country?
Every day we're getting a drip feed of cases from campuses, from even places of employment, of Muslims being targeted in a completely unfair way, treated as though they're a threat, as though they're innately violent. It's racialised targeting across the state services, from the police to immigration services to mental health services. You will find institutional racism present throughout, and now even spaces of education, nurseries, your doctor's surgeries are now being legally obliged to also adopt these totally hateful ideologies.
Muslims feel that they are being targeted with this program and nobody else. Rather than stigmatizing Muslim communities and making them deal with Prevent, which isolates them, engage with them, speak to them.
A lack of training and a focus on Muslims is seeing our schools and colleges being turned into sites of surveillance and prejudice. The problem we're now facing is that Prevent is perceived to be toxic by my friends, members of parliament, community leaders and people across the country. And don't get me wrong, from what I can see they're right. But the government now needs to start listening to my community and accept that Prevent is doing more harm than good.